Hey guys, Bios Ramos here, and today the Dolphins just lost to the Minnesota Vikings 17-41. Not the best loss ever.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team.
So the Dolphins got shut out in the first quarter, 21-0. Because I mean, if you get shut out, you're gonna have 0 points. Anyways, after that, the team really got back together after the beginning of the second quarter and started putting together something. Lead into halftime. They were down 10-21 at halftime. I was hoping for a touchdown on that drive, but whatever. And then first play of the first drive, once we come out of halftime, Kalen Ballage breaks a 75-yard touchdown. And you're asking why? How was Kalen Ballage on the field? Frank Gore got hurt. They haven't really said the severity of his injury, but it looked bad. He couldn't even walk off the field. And that being said, Kenyon Drake isn't feeling too great either. I think his shoulder's still hurting him from back then. Wasn't very well. Just wasn't very well. Fortunately, the Dolphins took this loss to an NFC opponent and not an AFC opponent. Imagine if this was a Jacksonville or the Buffalo game, it just would have been really, really bad loss for the Dolphins. But still, at the end of the day, it's still a bad loss. I mean, when you are in the playoff hunt and you don't beat another team that's in their own playoff hunt, it doesn't look good, especially when they just fired the offensive coordinator, when they couldn't do anything against Seattle, and then they come out and drop 41 on you. I mean, wow. So, let's get into some stats. So, let's go over the Dolphins since they didn't have the best offensive output. Ryan Tannehill went 17 for 24, 108 yards. There was no touchdowns by him and no interceptions by him, but he was sacked 9 times. 9. It's one less finger than I have on my hands. But just wasn't good. I mean, very rough. There were some things that were his fault, but there was also times that the offensive line just couldn't hold up Minnesota's defensive line at all. But the only bright thing that came out of this game were two things for the rookies. First of all was Kalen Ballage with he had 12 carries, 123 yards, 1 touchdown. His longest one was 75 yards. Then we had Frank Gore go 5 for 14. Brandon Bolden 1 for 12. Kenyon Drake 1 for 6. Tannehill had 1 run for 1 yard. Just not very well. Receiving wise, Danny Amendola had 3 receptions for 30 yards. Kenyon Drake had 3 receptions, 28 yards. Mike Gesicki had 2 receptions, 23 yards. Kenny Stills had 1 reception, 17 yards. And Bryce Butler had 1 reception, 12 yards. And he almost had another one, but they canceled the play because he went out of bounds barely. It's real complicated there. Now defensively, I mean, we weren't tackling them whatsoever. The highest amount of tackles was 6 by Minkah Fitzpatrick, and also Minkah Fitzpatrick had an interception taken back for a touchdown, first of his career. So congrats to him. So let's continue on. We have Raekwon McMillan with 6 as well, T.J. McDonald with 5, Bobby McCain with 5, Kiko Alonso with 5, and Jerome Baker with 5. And then it's just Rashad Jones with 4, Sylvester Williams with 4. I mean, overall, the team didn't do all that great. They were just riding a wave of just bad and good plays. But let's talk about Minnesota since they did win. They had a pretty good game. Kirk Cousins went 14 for 21, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. That one was the pick 6. And there was also 2 sacks. We only got 2 sacks on him. I wish they would have got way more pressure on him, but what can you do? There was a lot of times that we would get so close to getting him and then just escapes. And that's happened so many times to the Dolphins this season. It's quite frustrating. Rushing-wise, they had Dalvin Cook go 19 carries for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then following him was Latavius Murray with 15 carries, 68 yards, and 1 touchdown. And they even had Stephon Diggs run he had 1 run for 9 yards, and Kirk Cousins had 5 runs for 7 yards. Yeah, so receiving wise, Adam Thielen wasn't a huge factor in this game. not much was Kyle Rudolph either. Stephon Diggs was whatever. It was mainly their rushing attack and their defense just really getting at us and putting us in bad field position, making us have 3 and outs, making us have just short drives, punting the ball early. Let's get back to Minnesota's receiving though. Tyler Conklin, I'm not sure if I said it right, but he had 2 receptions, 53 yards. Following him was Stephon Diggs, 4 receptions, 49 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Aldrick Robinson had 2 receptions, 44 yards, and a touchdown. That one he got over Torrey McTyer. He just completely burnt him, and he had no help up top. It was TJ McDonald was just late there to help him out. Dalvin Cook had 1 reception for 27 yards. Kyle Rudolph had 3 receptions for 23 yards, and Adam Thielen had 2 receptions for 19 yards. Now, defensively, their tackle leader was Anthony Barr. He had 7 tackles. Following him was Eric Kendricks, had 6. Daniel Hunter had 5. Ben Gadion, I think that's how you say his name, he had 5 tackles. Everson Griffin had 3. Mackenzie Alexander had 3. Sheldon Richardson had 3. And Anthony Harris had 3. Something that they did very well was, I mean, what every other team should do well against the Dolphins is pressure Ryan Tannehill, blitz him, and just make him feel uncomfortable. And they did. Very upsetting for the Dolphins. I mean, the offensive line play wasn't great, but Ryan Tannehill sitting in the pocket sometimes too long wasn't great as well. He missed on some throws. He missed some reads. It's going to happen. I mean, when you have that bad of an output offensively, it just doesn't look good at all for not only yourself as Ryan Tannehill, but also the team. The receivers looked like they weren't getting open. Just a bunch of stuff going on. So this is obviously a very upsetting loss for the Dolphins. Does it mean that they're out of the playoff hunt? No, not really. But this does mean that they need to beat Jacksonville and they need to beat Buffalo to have any type of chance. Every team that was in the 4-way tie besides the Miami Dolphins for the final playoff spot ended up getting a win this week. The Titans won, the Colts won, and also the Ravens won. So just not good for the Dolphins having a loss heading into this game next week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, knowing that we need to win and then beat the Bills as well. Not much to really say about this game. It was just a very frustrating loss. So that's about it. That I'm going to have for you guys today. Hopefully the Dolphins can bounce back and beat the Jacksonville Jaguars next week. But like I said, let's go Dolphins. Hopefully they can get back on track and continue this playoff hunt. And that's all I have for you guys today. And if you haven't done yet, subscribe to the channel. Also give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed what I brought to the table. And also comment what you think of the game. Was it very sloppy for the Dolphins? I personally think it was very sloppy of them. And also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByAustinRamos. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team.